Hi, this is Julian, Pro Tools Expert, and I'm at the lovely Challow Park Studios with Will Biggs. So, Will, this is a brand new studio, and you've chosen to go with Dante and RedNet throughout. So tell us about why you decided to do that.
Okay, so when we designed the studio, we designed it to be an entirely analog place. The only digital we were going to have was our converters into Pro Tools. But just at the end of the building process, we were sent a couple of RedNet boxes, and a friend visited playing violin in our hall, which was being built. It still had scaffolding in, and it sounded unbelievable. So I threw a Cat5 cable into the hall, plugged a RedNet preamp in, sounded great, and just realised the freedom that it was going to give me. You know, I had no copper anywhere, and I was able to record. So from that moment onwards, we put an entirely non-copper analog system in. So we're all fibre between all the rooms. It's so cost effective. Yeah. Fantastic.
So had you used any AOIP stuff before?
Nope.
It was your first experience of...
Yep. Skype was probably the closest I've been to it.
All right. And so in that case, something that a couple of questions that I get asked quite regularly is, for a start, latency. You've measured it. What kind of latency?
We get, from microphone back to headphones, we're looking at around 0.25 of a millisecond.
So no one's ever noticed that?
Nobody's ever noticed that.
Fantastic. Also, what about, you've got some lovely analog outboard and some very bits of front end and stuff. Are you using that? If so, how are you?
So I have all of the compressors set up on the patch bay, which are set up as inserts on my analog in RedNet 2. They're not being used at the moment. I'm using all RedNet 4 preamps and going straight in.
So you say you're only using RedNet 4 preamps. Is that because it's too difficult to use other stuff? Or
no.
Okay.
No, it's because they sound great. And, you know, we're always talking about keeping cable runs short and trying to get your preamps as close to your source as possible. And all these things that they want, like, you know, Air and Abbey Road studios have their remote Neve pre's, and we all want them. But going straight into the RedNet preamp, you plug your mic in, it's great. They sound great. They work great. It's weird not having a compressor. You know, we're so used to having that method of going, you know, preamp, compressor, ADC. But you very quickly get over it because you don't need it. And you start listening to your mic positioning. You know, you've got a microphone and a preamp, and that's what you're listening to. So it makes you focus.
Fantastic. So I see you're using the Klang fabric as well. This is a Dante headphone amp system that I looked at on the blog a while ago. Is that just being used headphone monitoring duties and?
Yeah. So the way we run that is I route on the Dante controller the preamps directly to the program in here. So, you know, mic preamp 1, channel 1, whatever. And then they go straight back out to an AM2, which is a little Dante RedNet headphone amp. And then we can just set up a monitor mix for each person. This will run 8 stereo mixes.
So really it's software-driven routing. I mean, that's something we probably need to talk about.
Yeah, we should talk about routing.
Because, I mean, as far as I'm aware, this is kind of something that really appealed to you, looking at running Dante.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of workflow and presumably recall and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, recall... Presets in Dante controller are fantastic, but you find you set one up and then maybe you don't use it again. There's some nice standard configurations that you do. But one of the great things about a Dante system is you can send one preamp to multiple places simultaneously. I don't know the actual limit. I think it might be 16, but I've never got close to it. And then you can do multicasting, which is a different thing. But so I send my preamp to the monitor headphone system, Klang. I often send it to a VI1 as well, which is a digital board, and to Pro Tools. So I'll send it to multiple places simultaneously. So each of the streams is treated, well, specifically for the task you're doing. You don't have to go through Pro Tools and back to your monitor system. You can just go point to point without any consequences.
So in that case, in terms of, I mean, it's going to change from project to project, but in terms of typical channel counts that you're running through this system?
So the last few weeks we've been tracking live bands in multiple rooms. We've been running an average of 32 channels.
Okay. And then setting everything up, running unicast through gigabit switches, standard enterprise gigabit
Absolutely.
switches.
We use Cisco SG200s.
Okay. So and in terms of your network traffic, no issues at all. This is kind of, you haven't had to go to multicast.
I've never noticed any.
Sure.
I mean, I use the same network to run the studio's infrastructure as well. So our Wi-Fi, our network, our internet, our phone system runs on it. Yes.
And
we've never got anywhere close.
No VLANs or anything like that? Everything's running on the same
No,
network?
I intend to set up some VLANs because I now want to segregate stuff, but not because I need to.
Sure.
We have something like 240 devices on our network, and one VLAN only allows 254. So we're coming close to maxing out.
Sure. So in terms of how this implementation of Dante's gone in your studio, is there anything that you'd like to have, that you'd wish you'd known before you'd started or wish you'd known more about?
Yes. I would like to have understood more about how the backbone of networks work. I mean, we've all used it for, we've all got two computers. Well, a lot of us have two computers and we move data backwards and forwards. It's quite easy. Dante likes to have QoS settings, which is quality of service settings, very well set up. There's 4 specifics it needs. I'd like to have known that they even existed.
Sure.
When I started with one RedNet preamp and one RedNet box, it was no problem at all. When I started to add multiple boxes, really needed to. Your network needs to be tight and tidy.
Okay.
So
this is what you're saying is, as someone who knows a lot about audio, moving into networking world, you kind of had to learn a bit of a new language.
You don't need to be some sort of IT geek, although it's always good to be a geek, isn't it?
Yeah.
But just understanding that there are layers of networking, the way that information is transmitted around, it's nice to understand how it works, just like we all know how an XLR works.
Sure.
It's just good to know. And just the basics of networking.
Sure.
It's really useful to know.
So the OSI 7-layer model.
Yeah,
difference between layer 2 and layer 3.
And I didn't even know that existed.
QoS and
QoS. And just we spoke about VLANs a little bit earlier, and actually understanding what they do and how they work.
Yeah.
I would have made a few different decisions if I knew that.
Sure. So probably when you started, your IP addresses were being assigned by DHCP. Have you gone manual on any of that?
Well, I use my DHCP server actually assigns IP addresses to each of my boxes on the whole in the whole building using a MAC address list.
Sure.
So I take the MAC address of any device, I assign it an IP. So it's a static IP address assigned by a DHCP system.
We shouldn't go too far down that because we're going, come back. But no, you're pretty much confirming what I've been thinking for a while, which is that as audio people moving into the network audio world, we're all going to need to learn a bit of stuff about this.
Yeah, just
particularly as our systems grow.
Yeah, just being disciplined. Like I say, you've got an IP address which will be a whatever with a 3-digit end. Grouping equipment into sensible groups makes your life easy when you've lost something.
Sure. I think rather than disappear down a rabbit hole of networking and some scary sounding IT stuff, I'm going to kind of conclude. So it works then?
Yeah.
And you're happy?
It's changed my world in a super positive way. I love it.
Fantastic. I've been Julian, Pro Tools expert with Will Biggs, Challow Park Studios, and I'll see you next time.